Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vidyat Ravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Did someone else come in? It's the wind. So we are still in our second chapter. Last week we had these really powerful verses on karma yoga. So what verse are we on tonight?
51.
Verse 51. Deepa, will you help us out?
Yeah. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchanta yanamayam. The wise, possessed of knowledge, having abandoned the fruits of their actions, freed from the fetters of birth, go to the state which is beyond all evil.
So here Krishna puts us in touch with the benefits of karma yoga. Now, we will go into this in great depth in chapters 3, 4, and 5. But let me briefly review the 5 elements of karma yoga and what Krishna is going to say about this. Even a little bit of this knowledge frees us from great fear. First, act. We do not gain freedom by withdrawing from the world. Now, some people, it is their prarabdha to become a sannyasi and they leave the world. For most of us, no. We're in the world. We may come to this work, we may have family, responsibilities, a job, bills to pay, stuff like that. What Krishna is saying is act. What's he tell Arjuna? Don't go to the forest and meditate. Don't be a wuss. Don't be Clivium. Get up. Fight. I just love that section. How should we act? Second, according to our swadharma. The law of our own being. The exoteric meaning is if you're a Brahmin, you do that thing. If you're a Kshatriya, you do that thing. If you're a Vaishya, you do this thing. If you're a Shudra, you do that thing. But the deeper understanding is there is a vocation from the Latin, vocare. What's that mean? Anybody know? To call. a calling, a vocation, a mission. There's something that you're here to do. How do you know it? You follow a sense of rightness. So we follow our Swadharma. For Arjuna, he's a soldier. For him, there is nothing more glorious than a righteous war. If he goes off to the forest to meditate, he's going to be thinking about the battles he should have been fighting. So act according to your Swadharma. How? We'll get into this in the 4th chapter. In the yajna spirit. What does yajna mean?
Sacrifice.
Yes, so he uses the Vedic sacrifice as a metaphor. We try to make sacred everything that we do. So in divine life, this is where Swamiji got it. Serve the society, he used to say. Is that what your teachers would say?
Yeah, be good, do good.
Be good, do good. Yes. Yes. Live a life of service. The foolish person lives a life. I want to get what I want. I need to get my needs met. I'm not happy because I don't have what I want. You can do that if you wish. This is not about being punished or anything like that. But what Krishna's saying is, if you live a life like that, you probably won't be happy. I'm bored. I think I'll go gambling. No. Be useful. Be of service. And simple things. Who here has ever gone to like a party and had social anxiety? What do? Quit thinking about your stupid self and be useful. Go pick up plates and glasses. Take them to the kitchen. Start picking up trash. Find somebody else who's sitting in a corner, too shy to talk. Go up and genuinely take an interest in them. At your place of work, you're not there just to get a title and a paycheck and have people think you're important. You're there to do service. Who do you work for?
Salesforce.
No, you work for Krishna. I mean it. You do what? Product development stuff, don't you?
No, I'm a content manager.
Content manager. So who's going to be reading this content?
Krishna.
Or the gopis. You serve these people. You serve them. I had a student for a while who was an incredibly successful real estate agent. Sounds like a pretty worldly job, isn't it? And her way of approaching it as a yogi. My job is to help these people find their perfect home. That's all I'm supposed to do. Tell me what you want. How would you like it to be? Yada, yada, yada. Let's see what we can do. Serve, serve, serve. This is the yajna spirit. And last week we had the shloka, thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. That's all we get. Life is work. And even that can be temporary if you work for Meta where they're laying 15% off from what I've heard. Yeah. So act according to your Swadharma in the yajna spirit and in the idea that we've been working on now renouncing our attachment to the karma phalam, the fruits of action. We have to give the outcome up to God. Let it go. Let it go. The last one's the most difficult. That's the renunciation of the sense of agency. So two ways we can look at it. The Master Jesus said it this way: I of myself do no thing. It is the Father within that doeth the work. Take on the attitude, I'm a vehicle, I'm a channel, I'm an instrument for God. Or you can take on the meditation, who is the agent? What is the agent? The karta, guna, and karma. Qualities of mind and the force of the past. You're going to do what you're going to do. Let it come. We'll again go into that more deeply in chapter 5. But those are the 5 elements of the practice of karma yoga. Now listen carefully. Many of us, as we get into Vedanta, go, I'm going to study Ashtavakra Gita first. I'm going to do the Gita first because I'm smart. And we wonder why we're not finding peace. We're not finding any tranquility in our lives. Usually because, frankly, we're a little bit arrogant. If we follow the tradition, go all the way back and successfully practice karma yoga, we exhaust the pressure of our latent proclivities, our vasanas. We burn them up, we exhaust it. And then the mind becomes far more easily directed inward for the deeper flights of meditation. Many people just want to skip it. It just, karma yoga just isn't sexy for them. And they get stuck, and their sadhana becomes troublesome and problematic for years. So, this is the idea. If we practice yoga, karma yoga, our vasanas impel us into action. But if we practice these 5 elements, of course, here he just kind of sums it up, our renunciation of the fruits of action. We exhaust vasana without creating new ones. So the overall texture of the mind becomes more and more quiet. Then the higher flights of meditation become much easier. Any thoughts on this principle? In the Christian contemplative, monastic, ascetic tradition, they have what they call the active life for a monk or a sister. They do work. They teach school, they make wine, they make chocolate, something like that. After they've spent some time in the active life, then they're drawn to the more contemplative life. They want to spend more time alone, more time in prayer and meditation. So this is a universal idea. It's not just in yoga. Any thoughts on this or questions about it? All right, next verse.
Let's see if these work.
Pardon me?
Nothing. I'm wearing readers.
Do you need? I have reading glasses if you need them.
No, I got them.
Okay.
Yada te moha kalilam buddhirvyatitarashyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shutasya cha. When your intellect crosses beyond the mire of delusion, then you shall attain to indifference as to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard.
Yes. So now here he is pointing toward another important practice, which I touched on briefly in our meditation. Sakshi Bhava. What does bhava mean?
Feeling.
A feeling or an attitude. What is sakshi?
Witness.
Witness. So the yogi wants to practice being the observer of her thoughts and feelings. We don't want to beat him up with a baseball bat. We don't want to be in denial. You take a curiosity, an enormous compassion towards our interior experience. Oh, look, jealousy is arising. Interesting. Frankly, it rarely does us much good to go causation hunting. Oh, why am I jealous? Does no good. Now, listen carefully. Shraddha. The way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. Step back. And here Krishna says, take on this equanimity of vision, this sama drishta. Having your mind be the same in heat and cold. That's a metaphor for positive and negative physical things. Sukham dukham cha. Pleasure and suffering. The reactions of the mind to conducive and non-conducive environments. It's incredibly mechanical. I love to do this. So who here got upset this week? I can't see hands or lights. You got upset? Tell me it was the first time you got upset at this kind of issue.
No.
No. Same issue, only the names and faces change.
Something like that, yeah.
If you watch, you'll see that it's very repetitive, mechanical, and so boring afterward. And what the yogi wants to take on is this spiritual axiom. If I am disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. What's a klesha?
Defect.
Defect, defilement, affliction. It's an attachment. It's an identification. It's my control issue. I'm not getting what I want. That doesn't mean the world and its people aren't oftentimes quite wrong. You may have a boss who's an idiot. But if I get upset, I have the problem. That's where my yoga is. That's my guru right there. What do I need to do? Practice this sama. This turns down the volume level of our reactivity. Adi Shankara has this wonderful image. You want to have a mind like a wicker basket with water being poured into it. A modern day thing is if you have a colander that you use to like rinse vegetables or or you pour your pasta through, the water goes whoosh. So as information, what people say comes at you, just be empty. Let it pass through. Nobody there. Now, that doesn't mean not to have good manners. Someone says, "Oh, you did such a good job at the office." You graciously say thank you, but you don't let it land. You don't go, "Oh, I'm so good. I'm so smart." Because if you do that, the day after tomorrow, when they say, "Why did you do that? You're such an idiot," you're going to go, So we've got to let them both pass through. Practice this being empty inside. You just watch. And in the beginning, especially, you'll see your mind. The situation is conducive. You get upset. There I am again, reacting again. You just watch it. You just watch it. 90% of healing is just becoming aware. Just becoming aware. And it's not a practice that we do just in our meditation seat. We do it inward. Now, in time, as we continue to practice our self-inquiry, as we practice what Shankara will call Viveka Vairagya Cha. Viveka, discrimination. Dhamma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is mithya, it's a lie, it's an illusion. Discrimination between the self and the not self, the real and the unreal. No personal sense of self is real. Constant practice of this viveka. And then vairagya. Mind you, vairagya is not the same as aragya. A rock is aragya, has no feelings. You can tell the rock it's stupid, it doesn't care. Vairagya means we take our feelings to a higher level. We practice vairagya, that desire to give up attachment to all experiences gained through the senses. Notice it doesn't say we give up all experiences gained through the senses. You can't. You can't. But we give up our attachments. And that desire to renounce, to give up identification with any form of self, from the body up to and including the form of Brahma, the creator. Meaning, I think I'm a really important person. All of it has to go. What is my nature? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, Shankara says. My form is bliss consciousness. I have auspiciousness and Shiva. No personal sense of self is real. And if we're serious about this, really do it, at some point the mind will thunder to a stop. And the no thingness of the self becomes very clear. Clear to what? To the subtle intellect. That's where self-realization takes place. the buddhi becomes buddha. There is no other bondage than the deeply rooted conviction that I'm bound, meaning I think I'm my body. There is no other moksha, liberation, than the deeply rooted conviction in the subtle intellect. Not that I'm a Mahatma, that I'm a realized person. No, aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman. I'm not a person. And that changes everything. Any thoughts about this? So we step back. We practice this viveka and this vairagya. Just in our meditation, all through the day. And again, Krishna says, even a little of this knowledge starts to free us from great fear. Become less reactive to the world. Starts to be not so terrible, but rather funny. All right, next verse. Is 54?
53.
53.
Shruti vipratipannate yada stasyati nishchala samadhavachala buddhis tada yogamavapsasi. When your intellect, though perplexed by what you have heard, shall stand immovable and steady in the self, then you shall attain self-realization.
Yes. So, this is when the yogi reaches the state where she realizes no thought is real. Let me give you an example. Gobbledygooky fricty fra, super loopa dupa. How did that make you feel?
Nothing.
It's nonsense, right? You're a really incredible fellow. No, I can feel it that you're here. You're a serious yogi and you're smart and good looking. How did that make you feel?
That made sense.
It's no more true than the first. You're got a mind like a brick. Shankar would say you're just an ass walking around. You're never going to get anywhere in life. You're a total failure. And you're going to be alone. That make you feel?
Not so great.
Guess what? All three are nonsense. So what the yogi practices, no thought is real, especially thoughts about self. Don't let them land. I can give you an example. This is a really beautiful cup. It's Italian ceramics. The space in this cup is really stupid. It's ugly space. You know, it's icky, or it's such beautiful space. The nice thing about this cup is the space in it is so nice. Can you discern the difference? What's it like when I start saying things about the space in the cup? It's not true. It's not real. What's the nature of space? Shunyata. There's nothing there. This is the truth about you. Chidanandalupaham. Shivoham, Shivoham. My form is consciousness. And Shiva, I'm spaciousness. That's who you really are. I am not the body, not the mind, not the intellect. Practice viveka vairagya until this habituated identification with the body and the personality gets broken. That's what jnana abhyasa is. That's the practice of knowledge. What we do. And when that wisdom is steady, not just something I get glimpses of satsang, then you become what Gita would call sthita prajna, a person, a steady wisdom. So it's like someone comes up to you and says, Ram, you know, what I think is really best about you is you have 3 heads. It's just terrible, all 4 of your arms. Don't they get in the way? Isn't that nonsense to you? Yes?
Yeah.
But if somebody at work says, exceeds expectations, what's the opposite of it? PIP? What's that stand for?
Performance improvement plan.
Yes. Anybody gotten a performance, a PIP, PIP? It's just nonsense about the cell. But we have to practice. Viveka vairagya. Practice. This is called jnana abhyasa, the practice. All right, 54. Arjun's going to have a question now, a really good one. We're entering into one of the most famous sections of Gita. It's called the Sthita Prajna Purusha section. And it's the last verses of the 2nd chapter. It's just beautiful poetry, and it will describe the person of steady wisdom, the jnani, the woman or the man of realization. But we can take these various qualities and practice them. That may not be where I am all the time, but I can take them as like little facets of a jewel. I'm going to work on this. So they imply practice. It's not just a description of the body. All right, 54.
Arjuna vacha sita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sitadhi kim prabhashita kimasita vrajeta kim. Arjuna said, what, O Keshava, is the description of him who has steady wisdom and who is merged in the superconscious state? How does one of steady wisdom speak? How does he sit? How does he walk?
So when he says merged in the superconscious state, the word in Sanskrit is samadhi. Oh, boy, are there lots of romantic notions about samadhi. The scriptures basically deal with, in the Vedanta literature, the Raj Yogis have their own paradigms, but in the Vedanta literature, we tend to talk about 4 samadhis. And I'm going to go into them because it's good for us to know. Anybody here practice Raja Yoga, do asana, pranayama, stuff like that?
I mean, I have in the past.
Okay. So the first samadhi we call a jada samadhi. Jada means inert. So if you do pranayama and you huff and puff and then do the bandhas, you can stop the mind for a moment. But the experience is, I see blank. This personal sense of self does not drop. Now, what can be a trap is you can hyperventilate and basically have some blissful feelings, but it's still, I, the individual, am feeling this. But because those who practice a jada samadhi do not work on vairagya, detachment, renunciation, tyaga, the inherent proclivities of the mind are not destroyed. So they come out of that jada samadhi and they're still angry at their parents and they're terrified of their boss. And they can't stand the politics and all that stuff keeps going on and keeps afflicting them because it's the annihilation of the vasanas that's considered liberation by the wise. This is an important point. Any questions on this? Do you guys know what a vasana is? Is this a word that's new to you?
Can you give me definition?
Okay. A vasana is a subset of sanskara. Sanskara is an impression. Do you see that that's a table? You were taught was a table. Can you see that's a lamp? You were taught that's a lamp. That's a sanskara. There's no particular suffering involved in knowing that's a table. But a vasana is a subset. It's an impression left in the mind as the result of previously performed egoistic actions that include I-ness and mindness. So, did you drive tonight, Deepa?
Yes,
Yeah, which car?
my BMW.
Your BMW. Do you know what the alarm sounds like?
Not yet.
Is it parked outside?
Mhm.
So if you knew what the alarm sounded like and you heard the sound of breaking glass and that alarm, if it were someone else's car, you might go, oh, that's a shame. But if it were your car, how would you feel?
Stressed.
Uh-huh. Or you might even think, oh, I wonder if that's my car. So you see, it isn't the fact that a car got broken into. It's the fact that my car got broken into. I-ness and minus. So when we engage in the world with an experience that's either joy-giving or neutral or misery producing, and then we engage in what in Sanskrit we call chintya. In Hindi, it means worry, but in Sanskrit, it means after the fact rumination or thinking about the experience. Oh, that was really cool. I really like that. Or, oh, that's terrible. I'll never do that again. That leaves an impression in the unconscious. And that's a vasana. And that is what impels me into desire prompted activity. Now, we've been accruing vasanas for lifetimes. First power of a vasana is that it robs me of the experience of myself. And I immediately think I'm a person. So these are what need to be annihilated. We start by doing our karma yoga. But this viveka vairagyacha and the practice of samadhi, real samadhi, burns all that up. So we talked about, how am I doing on time? Or that jhana samadhi, which is not too efficacious. Doesn't really do much to burn up vasa. The second is what we call sa vikalpa samadhi. Sa means with. Vikalpa means a movement in the mind. Here it essentially means the perception of objects and thought. Sama means equal, di means mind. Quiescence of mind, even though I'm perceiving things. Practically speaking, it's when the mind is deeply introverted into though I'm moving through. Now, this is one of the great things that a Mahatma like Swamiji could give us. So at the various camps, he'd come once a year, once every other year, and we'd be just sitting around. And after a while, it wasn't about the data, the words, although he was brilliant. I would just tune to his mind. And he was so and he would ask us to stay in that deeply introverted mind state as we're moving through the world as much as we can. This keeps the mind from extroverting into the sense objects. And then when the last attachment has been let go, you never know what it is. The mind thunders to the stop. We enter nirvikalpa samadhi. Nir means without. Technically speaking, any time the mind is free from thought, the attentive faculty is introverted, even if it's just a moment, a flash. That's a nirvikalpa. Does not have to be long. How do I know it's a moment of nirvikalpa? Because the no thingness of the self, as the intellect returns, has passed. Absolutely clear. There's nobody there. Oh my gosh. My nature is empty like space, yet full of me, full of being, full of sensation. Then we need to learn to see the self in and through the world. We have two scriptural statements that we have to reconcile. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, Brahman alone is real, the phenomenal world is illusory, and sarvam kalvidam brahma, sarvamidam. All this, kalu, verily is Brahman. We see the world, we move in the world, but it no longer has the power to agitate us. All God, all perfect. This is called sahaja samadhi, natural, continuous samadhi. All of these samadhis are implied in this verse, ultimately culminating in this sthita prajna, this steady wisdom. Any thoughts about the questions that Arjuna is asking? And very practical stuff from his viewpoint. Well, how can I tell the Mahatma, person of steady wisdom? Do they wear orange? Long beard. He had a very long beard. Used to say, the longer the beard, the more you should distrust them.
Jim, I have a question.
Please.
Is there a way to know when you might be like, I've been trying to listen to my deeper intuition about things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, like, when you know maybe what you're listening to is more something from a vasana or like versus something that's coming from a deeper.
Fabulous question, and I can answer it. First, we have the loud voices of raga and dvesha. I must have it this way. I will never have it that way. We can't really access the deep intuition until we silence those. So we're back to this point of renunciation of the fruits of action. We have to be at the point where I'm willing to do this, I'm willing to do that, I'm willing for this to happen, I'm willing for that not to happen. Now, I would suggest you ask a question of your intuition, not what do I want, but where do you want me? There was a wonderful Christian priest. His name was Michael Judge. He was the first recorded death at 9/11 back in 2001, Franciscan. He was the chaplain to the New York City Fire Department. But he had a wonderful prayer. Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say. Keep me out of your way. So that's the preparation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Then when it comes to the intuition, it's our sense of rightness. Doing God's will bring us peace. So when you ask inside, should I do this? You might get a yes. You might get a no. You might get, I'm not telling you. You have to be content with not getting an answer right away. If that's what we get, what do? Just what's right in front. But understand, prarabdha karma is operative. You're going to do what you're going to do. Part of the illusion of ego is I think I'm making this free choice independently and it's so damn consequential. In a sense, it was written when you popped out of your mother's womb. Don't worry about it. Do your best. Just do your best. And understand you can't make a mistake. If it looks like a mistake, it's prarabdha. It's something that you chose to learn something about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The end, really, your happiness, your peace of mind has nothing to do with what you do. It's a little helpful for your yoga if you're aligned with your swadharma. But in the end, your peace is independent of the world. The goal of the spiritual life is not about hitting all the green lights of love. Nobody's life does that. It's being able to match the good times with serenity and calamity with serenity. But the first of all, rarely does your intuition come in the form of fear. Every once in a while, you might get the message, don't cross the street, and somebody runs a red light. But that's rare. Usually it's, should I take this job? Should I marry this boy? And just stay with it. Be patient. Be patient. Pay attention to your intuition. And you'll know, you have a deep sense of rightness. I do not suggest that you go ask the astrologer or get a tarot reading or something like that. I think the best guidance comes from your own deep intuition. Was that useful?
Yeah, very helpful.
Very important practice. And the development of the intuitive mind is a practice. We practice living by intuition. And sometimes we're acting from ego and oops, no, that wasn't intuition. But you learn to discriminate the differences by doing it, by practicing it. Okay, so we've done verse 54. Now I have to tell you, this next verse is my favorite verse in the whole Gita. And in it is the complete teaching of the path and the goal. 55.
Shri Bhagwan Vacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushta Sita Prajna Stadochate. The Blessed Lord said, when a man completely casts off, O Partha, all the desires of the mind and is satisfied in the self, by the self, then he is said to be one of steady wisdom.
Yes. So all of our practices about being a fit student and everything can all be summed up in when I cast off all the cravings of the mind. Ego's strategy is always, I'm not happy because I'm not getting what I want. It's a lie. Yoga says, I'm unhappy because I'm stuck wanting. It's kama, which shows up as raga dveshacha, as attraction for things, raga, aversion for things, vesha, or bhaya, fear. I got what I want, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. I'm afraid I'm not going to get it. All of that is karma. Over here is dukkha. My ego mind says I'm suffering because I'm not getting what I want. Through insight. Some of you we were talking about earlier doing vipassana. The Sanskrit is vipashyana. Drish pashyati is the root, the verb. What's pashyati mean?
To see.
To see, yes. Vipashyana means to see what's really there, to have insight. Literally what it means. So when we thoroughly understand that it's the wanting itself that's so painful. And the more I want it, and the further away it seems to be, the more painful it is. So the yogi begins to see that the kama, the craving, and the dukkha, the suffering, they are the same thing. The person in ignorance takes the baseball bat to life to try to get what I want. That's what's going to make me happy. More, better, different, drugs, sex, rock and roll. The yogi understands it's the craving itself that I need to let go of. This is mature insight. And listen carefully. The renunciation of the world never is successful if done as an act of will or done out of some moral idea. Doesn't work. Only works through deep insight. I've got to see what the problem is. Then I develop the yoga bala to be able to let go of stuff. But that's only half the picture. When a person casts off all the desires, the cravings of the mind, old parts, and is satisfied in the self, by the self. So this is why meditation becomes so important. Because we need to have the gut, visceral experience. What I'm seeking is the mind abiding in the self, what we call Atmaramana, reveling in my own self nature. The yogi needs to see. We experience the bliss of the self in three ways. First, technical term is vasana ananda, the bliss of deep sleep. Everybody loves a deep sleep. What object is causing the joy of deep sleep? In fact, it's the lack of the mind. Everybody loves it. And the more problematic your life is, the more you like deep sleep. Second, Vishaya Ananda, the joy that I experience through the objects. The fool with desire and object of desire become one. I go, oh, that was a really great widget. Give me more of that. But what's really happening is I have constant low grade discontent, restlessness. when I satisfy the desire, I get a release from that agitation. What I'm really feeling is an experience of my own self-nature. But in my ignorance, I think the object did it. That binds me to it, makes me want to repeat it. And there's Brahmananda, bliss of the self. The yogi needs to have the direct experience of Brahmananda Rasa Swad. What's swad?
Taste.
Taste. Rasa. Juice. Juice. The tasting of the juice of the bliss of my own self-nature. Why is this important? You've all heard me talk about what I call the ruthless rule of the mind. The ruthless rule of the mind is the mind will return to the experience that's given it the greatest joy. And if you have friends who are addicts or alcoholics, they may wish that they could give up the drugs or the alcohol, but that's what's given them the greatest relief, the greatest respite from the agitated mind. Mind goes back there. So many young people now, it's drug-driven sex. They do crystal meth and go get laid. Oh man, it's so hard to give that up because it really stops the mind. Now, thank God, God is the most beloved, or we'd all be screwed. So even if it's just once in meditation, maybe with the support of sadhu sangha, company of sadhus, we get that experience of just deep, profound peace. It's so clean, it's so pure. The neat thing about it, it doesn't cost anything, won't rot your liver, you don't have to look your best. It's always available, and it's inexhaustible. Even if it's just once, your mind will remember it. And then the same energy that drove your mind into the world starts to drive you towards the self. Then you become a mumukshu. What's a mumukshu?
Seeker.
Seeker after moksha, liberation. Jinyasu. Seeker after the knowledge. Self-nature. So in Vivekachudamani, Shankara has a very famous section, the Adhikari section, the qualifications of a fit student. Afterward, there's just a couple verses where he talks about the qualifications of a fit teacher, who's Shrotriya, well versed in the scriptures, so that they can take the student from where they are to the highest. Then he says, who's a full knower of the Supreme, who has retired into the Supreme. who is unafflicted by desire, who is as calm as a fire that has burnt up its fuel. This was so wonderful about being around Swamiji. We would just sit around. He would be talking and answering people's questions, but we would learn how to tune up to him. And he was so empty. He was so satisfied in the sound, by the sound. And we could share in that with him. And he used to jokingly say, when the participants leave the satsang, they leave the Vedanta on their asana. By the time they get to their car, oh boy. But we get that swab, we get taste of the juice. Brahmananda rasa swab. So this is all of yoga. It is so simple in the end. First, intense vairagya. Intense sannyasa, tyagaha. After we've discriminated, clear about why I want to work on letting go of the tyranny of my cravings. And then it's not just some nihilistic experience. The world just tastes like ashes. There's nothing left that I really like. I might as well kill myself. That's not what the goal of yoga is. Then, Atmaravana. Anandarasaswa. Tasting juice, the bliss of Brahma. Now, there's a structure in scripture. Many of you know this, that whenever there's a list of things, frequently the subtlest, most important is listed first. We'll go through now, we'll break down these other dimensions of what it is to be a stita, prajna, moksha. And again, as I said, we work on these things. For the woman of steady wisdom, they come naturally. I will practice them. But here in verse 55 is the entire essence of the path of the way. Okay, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.